My humble pranams at the lotus feet of my beloved Hriday Nivasi, Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Jai Sathsang to you all. Welcome to this month's live Satsang session. So over the last few months, we've been hosting the live Satsang sessions, thanks to Gitika, on topics such as being grateful and mindful, bliss is my food, Man Ki Shanti, and also last month's Satsang, looking at rising above desires. The idea behind these sessions is to look at our Lord's teachings and emphasize how practical they are to implement into our daily lives. Today, we continue that emphasis and are fortunate to have former Sai student, Brother Divij Desai, share his experiences based on the topic title, Daily Down-to-Earth Learnings from Bhagwan. I'm sure we will get a great insight on how we can practice Bhagwan's teachings in our daily lives from someone who has been blessed enough not only to study in Bhagwan's institute, but having been physically able to serve Bhagwan in close proximity for several years. To give you some background information, Brother Divij is a former Sai student, as I mentioned, who hails from Mumbai, where he completed his schooling before joining Bhagwan's University at Whitefield in 2001 to undertake a Bachelor of Science in Physics. In Prashanti, he then pursued a Master's in Photonics, and on Bhagwan's instructions, he completed his Master's in Business Administration in 2008. Bhagwan blessed him with an opportunity to physically serve him in close quarters between 2004 and 2008. He also accompanied Bhagwan on a few trips to Kodaikanal and participated in convocation dramas. Brother Divij has been in the UK since 2012 and currently works with Citibank Personal Banking and Wealth Management Business. If we do have time, we will try and have a Q&A session towards the end. So if you do have any relevant questions, please do post them in the chat below and we will try best to get to them. Without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to invite Brother Divij to share his insights with Bhagwan. Jai Saram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Offering my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan, revered elders, and my dear sisters and brothers. Jai Sai Ram to one and all. Thank you, Brother Bhavin, for your kind words. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be a part of such satsang sessions where we know more about Bhagwan, we understand more about his teachings, we get to know some insights about his life and how he intertwined so many aspects of his divinity in people's lives, making it his miracles and giving us as his devotees an opportunity to get a glimpse of him. And every time we have such an opportunity to be able to share some of these insights and some of these episodes, it gives me great joy to listen and to also be there to share. At this point in time, in 2020, as we all find ourselves in, it's been a unique year for most of us, many of us, all of us. I'm reminded of a beautiful paragraph from Charles Dickens' novel, A Tale of Two Cities. It was the worst of times. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. Well, Charles Dickens at that point in time may be referring to the lives of people split across the English Channel, the golden glamour of what people of London had versus what people of France, Paris faced during the French Revolution. But if you fast forward those years and in 2020, when we look at it, it's a strange and a unique scenario where all of us are in that situation. The entire globe for a moment is in the same boat as the description of Charles Dickens' novel. It is indeed the worst of times, because what we see globally right now, amidst the spread of coronavirus, it has indeed pulled all of us back, whether it has been our dreams, whether it has been our aspirations, whether it has been our plans. It has impacted many lives, some of them unfortunately also passing into death. And it has literally shaken the lives of millions across the globe. Something which in our times has been unprecedented. However, it is still the best of the times. Because for the first time ever in our lives, we have been forced externally to go inward. We have always had the opportunity, even when Bhagwan was there in his physical, mortal self, there was always an option for us that let's go to Prashanti. We had a tough time in our life. We had some questions to answer. We had some problems to resolve. We used to make a dash to Parthi. Because in our minds, in our hearts, we knew that if we go to Prashanti, Swami may or may not talk to us. Swami may or may not accept our letter. But in our own minds, we will have that peace. We will have that joy because his mere darshan would do us enough. We always had that option. And most of us exercised it. We ended up going to Prashanti because that is where we found our solace in the Rupa of Bhagwan. But after 2011, and especially in today's times, when we are forced to be in the so-called lockdown, we have been enforced that opportunity to go inward, to ask ourselves that question, that what is it that we ought to do that makes us dearer to Bhagwan and not just nearer. Bhagwan had been timelessly telling us in all his discourses to transform, to progress from Rupa to Nirupa, where we go from form to formless. But it was indeed a difficult journey for each one of us. And I would definitely not rule out even those who had his proximity in physical sense in and around him, whether it was the university, whether it was working in the hospital, whether it was staying in Prashanti ashram, or whether it was staying anywhere across the globe. We accepted that, yes, that is indeed where we should proceed and progress towards. But we always had the insurance of having Bhagwan, whom we could have as well gone and met and seen physically. But this moment that has come has indeed broken all those paths. And for a minute and for a time, we have had this opportunity where we are amidst our loved ones, where we are amidst our families, and we are able to progress together as a family to where Bhagwan wants us. Wants not just us as an individual, but us as a society, us as a group, us as a center, us as a nation, to be able to approach him and transform from form to formless. And the greatness of Bhagwan in our lives, with him as our guru, has been such that he has not only taught us the supreme truths of the life, but he has also taught us the most mundane things in life, and many of them with his own example. And under that guidance, I really feel that we all are blessed to have had that opportunity where we are able to take that inspiration from Bhagwan in the manner in which he carried out himself individually. And that gives us that impetus to where he wants us to go. That can only be his benevolence that we've had that opportunity. What I wanted to do today is to be able to share a few such episodes and my learnings and my takeaways from that, which I feel has so much of importance in our lives where we are living today. Things that he has taught us years ago are so relevant and are so meaningful when we think of it right now in the environment that we are in. One such thing that is very close to my heart, and this is the journey that I have experienced as a devotee, as a student who got an opportunity to study at Bhagwan's portal, and also as someone who was blessed to serve him for some time in my life. The greatness of how Bhagwan enters our life and how he molds it, how he influences it, and then gives us a cookbook, a recipe, a template for us to then take that inspiration and move forward, is something that I can possibly relate to a cycle of importance and ignorance/insurance. And the reason I say ignorance/insurance, which I would possibly say at the end of this episode that I'm wanting to share, is that be it any individual, be it a toddler who someone who at a kindergarten level who had joined Bhagwan's portals, or a student joining in class 11, or someone pursuing his undergraduate or postgraduate and joining Bhagwan's portal, or even a devotee coming across from different parts of the globe. The phenomenon of Bhagwan was such that when Swami decided to give importance to that individual, he would make sure that that individual feels that he or she is the most important person on this planet Earth for Bhagwan. Bhagwan would give him so much proximity, so much importance. The life would change overnight for that individual, because it would be Bhagwan, his grace, his importance, his amazing presence that would literally change life overnight for the individual. Now, it is a very, very challenging time, because when the entire world that looks up to Bhagwan, and in that moment when he makes you feel that, yes, there is the entire globe on one side and there is you on the other side, and here you go, you have my grace, you have my darshanam, sparshanam, sambhashanam, it is quite obvious that it would make any of us, it would overwhelm us to an extent that we would feel that, yes, this is indeed the purpose of Bhagwan's life. And he takes you to such crests where you think that there is definitely nothing that can take you away from that position. And then the cycle of trough begins, where you are also made to realize that that entire episode, that entire time that Bhagwan gave you, that entire passage of moments that he shared with you, was one page of the story. And his story has innumerable pages. And that moment when you are experiencing the downward side of that wave, of that cycle, is the moment of introspection. Because in that moment is where Bhagwan demonstrates that aspect that for him, it is not you as an individual, it is you as a soul that matters. And for him, Bhagwan takes the individual through that journey where he gives you, and then when he gives you, that famous quote of his where he says that to whom much more is given, to him more is given, much more is expected. That moment of introspection, that moment of that journey where you are made to introspect of what has gone wrong, that Bhagwan has now slowly started ignoring me, or the importance that I was getting is all gone, is that crucial, critical moment in all our lives. And I'm reminded of a couple of incidents which really to this age make me realize the importance and how the fact that Bhagwan stressed on this aspect to such an extent that it literally was like the vibhuti of our life, where we had to accept this fact that, if we want to be with Bhagwan, if we want to really truly experience his divinity, then we have to learn this. We have to literally accept that Bhagwan is here for a much, much bigger cause. And it was simply our good fortune that we were there in that journey with him, where for that few fleeting moments, we were a part of the boat. We were a part of the cab, the drive that he took all of us through. One such episode was when after Guru Purnima, Bhagwan had, for a period of around 3 to 4 weeks, had literally stopped talking to boys, the students of his university, to such an extent that Bhagwan, when he used to come from his residence in Purnachandra, he used to, as soon as he used to come into the Kulwant Hall, as soon as where the ladies section ended, Bhagwan used to take a cut and walk all the way to the interview room from there. There was this period for about 3 or 4 weeks where Bhagwan did not come even one day to this section where boys students sat, and to the section where after students where the gents sit in the Kulwant Hall. And it was also around that period where I believe one Italian devotee had also offered his dedication and his love to Bhagwan in the form of a statue of Swami. And that statue was installed by Bhagwan on the center of, where the Ganesha statue is right now, and where Swami's Samadhi is. That statue was installed over there. And we remember having a conversation. There was a word amongst boys that Swami has taken a stance that from here on, this statue is going to be for boys and students, and the actual Swami, the one who is in flesh and blood, is going to be only for the rest of the devotees. And that period of 3 to 4 weeks was indeed a very, very tough time for all of us, to such an extent that we had started doing additional Sai Gayatris in the hostel. We had started doing some bhajans in the hostel. We had started writing loads and loads of letters and posted to Bhagwan's residence in Purnachandra. And it was indeed a very unique time for us because this was unprecedented. There used to be times when Bhagwan would be upset with students or may not be happy with a specific section of boys or students after some events that may have happened. But for him to not talk and not and completely ignore for a period of 3 to 4 weeks was something which was really unprecedented. Now, what the uniqueness again, in this relationship that we share with Swami as students, as devotees, is that of, the pining, the churning begins immediately, because we notice that, something that we are so used to, the pile of his love and his grace that we are so used to, is suddenly taken away from our plates. Something which is taken away snatched from us, hurts us. So our prayers had begun, and around, it was just about before Ganesh Chaturthi, I remember, where Swami eventually, one fine day, decided and advised the warden that he is going to come to the hostel. And that took all of us by surprise. From the lows and the nathers of the moment where you felt that Swami has literally now decided that he is not going to be talking to us, to visiting us, paying us a visit at our home, which is our hostel, was something unexpected. So boys had prepared a lot of programs, and we were all ready to welcome Bhagwan on that particular day. And Swami came to the hostel. And the first few moments when Swami came, everyone was quite tensed, literally bereft of any idea of how to respond. We obviously had a plan that, as soon as Swami comes, we're going to fall at his feet. We're going to, seek forgiveness if, boys may have made mistakes. But all of that was quite tempered. All of that was quite maintained in a very low profile. And then Swami went and sat on his chair. And then there were a few speeches. There were a few songs that we sang for Bhagwan. It was a very emotionally charged environment. And then Swami gave a discourse. And in that discourse, I'm sure many of us have had an opportunity to look it up on YouTube, where Swami says that Swami's boys are like his, Swami's students are like his life breath. And Bhagwan is one promise that Bhagwan, you can always be assured of, is that Bhagwan will be there, intane vintane jantane untan, where Swami will be there in you, around you, next to you. And that is something which saw us through for in fact, many of us through the entire lifetime to this date. That belief, that assurance, that conviction, that statement from Bhagwan that he is going to be there all around us is our insurance in life. So the entire journey from importance to Swami ignoring you, to taking you through that cycle, to taking you through that churning, is something which is one of the biggest learnings that has been imparted by him at a very mundane human level, where he literally demonstrates to you that do not take him lightly. Many a times he has also said that most of you treat me like a paperweight, but I'm a diamond. So, well, yes, the weight of the diamond can also be used as a paperweight. But then if you're going to be using me as a paperweight, then that is what I'm going to be to you. And the fact that he is there for, his mission has been there for a bigger purpose is something which made us realize that we being a part of his journey is our good fortune. And for us, we need to understand that when we are in that moment, we make the most of it. We take that inspiration and drive and live from there on, taking his teachings into our own lives. Another great aspect of Bhagwan and his relationship was, and his teachings, especially having seen many of those episodes at a very close distance, was the fact that he was so unique, and his relationship is, and will be very, very unique to each of us. And Swami has himself said many a times in his discourse that when you go to a doctor, he gives you, it is the same cold and cough that the individual will have, but then he will prescribe 3 different medicines. And many times I've tried to analyze on how the fact that he is so unique to everyone, and the reason why he has to be unique to everyone is so evident. And in the past, he has made it so evident by Bhagwan himself saying many a times that he's like the divine director. And in a script, he has different roles for different individuals. No film or no story can run with each one of us being a protagonist. You have to play individual roles. What is important is that when Bhagwan assigns us that role, we do it with perfection. And that perfection is nothing but we give in our best, and the rest that he takes care. So his relationship is quite unique to each of us. And that is why it is important that even in our subconscious mind, we never compare a lifetime of us as a devotee, as an individual, with someone else's journey. The journey is going to be very, very unique, because that is how he has scripted it. If you're going to be going into the whys and hows he has scripted, you will never be able to meet the end. So it is good that we accept the fact that, yes, it's going to be unique, and we learn to love and live with it. I remember there was once in Bhajan Hall, a couple of times, in fact, and why this particular, these couple of episodes made it quite evident for me that Swami might say the same line. Swami might ask the same question, but then it will mean different things for individuals. There was one student who was singing just before bhajans were to start, and Swami was sitting on his chair, and Swami asked him, he was sitting right on the edge of where in the bhajan hall where you keep Swami's carpet, and then on one side of the carpet are the students and the gents who sit, and on the other side of the carpet are the ladies who sit. So he was sitting on the edge of that carpet, the last person. And Swami had just come just 5-10 minutes before bhajans were to begin. And Swami looked at this boy and he said, look, your mother-in-law is sitting over there. And the boy was quite taken aback because he didn't expect this to happen. And it was quite natural for him to, I don't know, out of curiosity, out of, was it an impulsive reaction? He looked towards his left just to see whom Swami is referring to as mother-in-law. And Swami cracked open, laughing loudly and saying, look at this boy. He's so interested that he definitely wants to know and see and be sure of himself that Swami is pointing out to the right lady as his mother-in-law. He doesn't even know whose daughter, if I tell him that is his mother-in-law, he doesn't even know whether that lady even has a daughter, but he's wanting to be very sure. And look at his curiosity. And that literally made all the boys, laugh out of humor. And it was something which was very nice to experience in that moment and that joy. Now, after a few weeks, or maybe a couple of months, it was a similar, time when it was morning darshan, and so Swami had just come a little early than what time the bhajans begin. And Swami was talking to some of the students who were there in the first and the second row, asking about the hostel activities, asking about how the exam's going. And then there was one boy who was not necessarily sitting next to the edge of the carpet, so he was sitting a little behind. And Swami called him, and Swami started talking to him. And he was someone who was in his final year. And after his final year, he had expressed his aspiration and desire to work with and stay with Swami and work in any of his institutions. And Swami was telling him that no, you have to go back. Your parents are waiting. You have important things to do. Your father has plans for you. And it went on for a few minutes with the student requesting further, pleading with Swami that, no, Swami, I want to serve you. I want to be with you. And then Swami said, no, see, you have to also get married. In fact, I'm going to get you married to someone who is sitting in the bhajan hall. And that was something which came as a shock for him, because, he was expressing his desire to be with Swami, serve him. And then Swami is talking about his marriage and the fact that he's going to get him married to someone who's sitting in the bhajan hall. And it may have been just a glimpse that he may have seen, asking Swami, in the bhajan hall, in someone over here. And that fleeting moment was enough for Swami to snap over there. And then for the next 5 minutes, Swami literally reprimanded him and chided him of not being in control, Swami testing him, he not passing through the test, what sort of behavior is that? And I was sitting over there and just watching, this episode and this interaction between Bhagwan and the student. And it was quite overwhelming to be even there and understand, what's happening, because within minutes, the conversation, which started off with, him wanting to serve at his lotus feet, had flared up with Swami a little seemingly upset with him. And my mind went back to the couple of months, the episode where Swami was quite jovial and was quite moody to crack open, the entire bhajan hall with his pointing towards a lady, being a mother-in-law for one of the boys. Now, the same episode and the same incident had two different meanings and two different outcomes for the student. Each of them had a history. Each of them had a role, which Swami had in his mission for, them. But, and the comment that Swami had made was similar, but then it meant two different things for two different individuals. And that made me feel that, yes, for Swami, everyone is alike. His love for us, whether we are in his proximity or whether we are away physically, he is the same. But the plan that he has, the mission that he has, and then the individual lines and roles and that we are expected to deliver is quite unique to each of us. And that's his greatness again, where if we are able to accept that fact that, yes, this is my role, this is what I need to do, and it's going to be quite unique to me, and I just need to be conscious of that, and stick to my path. That will help us navigate, and that will help us in difficult times when we have those issues, in difficult times when we have those problems, because that will give us the confidence and the strength that we need. One more important aspect that is quite quite known to all of us, and we do it. Most of us do it, but the manner in which Bhagwan had laid its importance, I was just lucky to experience that, was the importance of Namasmarana. Now, we all know that it does help us. It helps all of us when we chant his name, because the joy that we get in chanting his name, be it bhajans, be it just sitting on a sofa, be it, in meditation, or while we are working, the mere name of Bhagwan is so soothing. But the importance and the manner in which and the extent to which Swami goes to explain that was something which was quite dazzling to me, when one day Bhagwan, in about 2005, Swami used to quite often ask Padmanabhan sir, who used to drive Swami's vehicle, to during darshan, just to go for a drive. Many a times he would just go to the super specialty hospital, go to the general hospital, go to the stadium, go to Sai Gita shed, go to the indoor stadium, and then just come back. One day it was afternoon, and he asked Padmanabhan sir to start the car, and then I was following a couple of other boys in the qualis behind Bhagwan. And Swami asked him to take to the Sathsang boys hostel, the university boys hostel. It was an unannounced visit that Bhagwan had made. So obviously none of them were ready. It was the afternoon time when boys were to come to, boys actually were in the Kulwant hall, because it was the afternoon darshan time. So Swami had already come to the hall, and Swami had given an interview to a couple of devotees, and then after that he asked Padmanabhan sir to drive towards the hostel. So when he went to the hostel, there may have been hardly 5 or 10 boys who possibly wouldn't have been able to attend darshan on that day because of some sickness or because of some health issue that they may have had. Apart from the 10 boys in the hostel, the only other people that were there in the hostel on that afternoon were the workers and the chef and the workers in the kitchen. So Bhagwan comes to the hostel and asks for the car to be taken, because we had made a ramp for Bhagwan where his car could have come straight into the hostel, for the car to go all the way to the dining hall. And when Bhagwan reached the dining hall, Bhagwan asked for the cook, the head cook, to come. Now this head cook had spent years serving Bhagwan, and had a very, very great rapport and relationship with Bhagwan. So he started talking to him, and he asked him, what was the menu for the day, and he asked him how are the boys enjoying it. He also asked him to add a special item for the upcoming Sunday dinner that was being prepared. And then he asked him, "Tum khana banata hai, tabhi kya karta hai?" So the cook said that, Swami, sometimes I listen to your bhajans. Most of the times I have to give the instructions to the people, because when you're cooking for 400, 500 boys in the hostel, it is massive work every session. So I most of the time I'm talking to the other cooks, and we're quite busy and quite intense. But many a times we do listen to your bhajans and while we are cooking. And then Swami said, "Nahi, whenever you are in the kitchen, whenever you are doing anything in the kitchen, keep chanting my name. When you chant my name, and when you are cooking that food, and that food is being is a nourishment for 400 to 500 of my boys, that food, that chanting of the name, that going in, that positive vibration and grace getting into the food also gets into the thought process of my boys. And I need that to happen. So chant the name of Bhagwan whenever you are stepping into the kitchen." Now, looking back at it and, just hearing that conversation through, and Bhagwan laying the importance of chanting his name so that it gets into the thought and the positive vibration of that name, Bhagwan's name being chanted, seeps through and goes into the ingrained food that is being consumed by the boys, is a long journey. But he has laid that importance. And for him to come in the middle of a darshan at a time when there is no one around, so the importance of the message does not get lost, and it is that one-on-one communication. It was almost like an interview for the cook, coming all the way from ashram, from Prashantin, from the ashram to the hostel, and giving him this message so that it influences the thought of the people, the students who are consuming the food, was itself a great lesson. And to this date, it sometimes reverberates when I step into the kitchen, of the importance of namasmarana, especially during cooking. So again, for Swami, one simple line in discourse, or his message that he gave to the devotees would have been enough. But he taking going through this journey to make us understand and why, and explaining their entire significance, was his greatness that we all were a party to. Because for a Sadguru to do that, come down to our levels and to be able to do that, was supreme. One of the most important aspects of his divinity was how Bhagwan made you feel that while he is supreme, but his behavior, his persona may, the Maya aspect of Bhagwan would be so much that, the illusion that you can get into, that you can get influenced into, was so much that I remember once one of our lecturers, very ardent devotee of Bhagwan, when I had just graduated from Vrindavan and started studying in Prashanti for my postgraduate, had told me one day that Bhagwan is Maya, and Bhagwan has to be Maya, because if he doesn't do that, then you will never be able to realize his importance. But while he is expressing himself as Maya, while he's expressing himself with his illusion, you got to keep telling yourself that he's divine, that he is divine, that he is divine, that mantra has to be on. Because if that mantra is not on, that it will take a moment for you to slip, and the journey after that is something which is going to be quite a bit of a challenge. And another thing that he had mentioned was to follow Bhagwan explicitly, and that is where we as his devotees get counted in his mind. Because for us to follow him explicitly is our manner in which we demonstrate our surrender, or we demonstrate our faith. Because if you were to question, or if you were to not even question, but if you were to even think through without following him explicitly, then we are adding our own intellect, and we are adding our own evaluation and assessment of whether it benefits us, whether it is something that we are comfortable. And a couple of incidents, again, are there every time. I think of this message of when we get Swami's message, when we read something about what Bhagwan has said, to try doing it in an explicitness, without really deviating. It was once, it was in Kodaikanal, where Swami had taken a few boys for the trip, and quite often Swami used to give us some money to do some shopping. So when Swami used to be in Kodaikanal, even the local shopkeepers over there used to be quite happy, because they would know that when Swami comes, there is the weeks when Swami stays in Kodai, it is a peak season for them, because suddenly you will find Kodaikanal thronging with devotees, with a lot of people wanting to get Swami's darshan in the hill station over there. And that is obviously a very good time for the local shopkeepers over there. So what Swami also used to do was also give some money to boys. And Swami used to tell boys that, okay, go and shop for your parents, go and shop for your brother or sister. Now, some of us, and this was the first time when I had gone there, I too was a party to this, and that's why this is quite vivid in my mind. It is the first time Bhagwan had given money. Now, Bhagwan is giving you money. You want to keep it for the rest of your life, because you want to cherish it, keep it in an envelope, put it in your cupboard, put it in your shelf, and say that, yes, I have the note given to me by Bhagwan. And I was also one of those amongst so many other boys, a couple of other boys who had done this. And when so that particular afternoon, after we had come back from our shopping trip, Swami was asking boys, what have you bought? What have you bought? So, people were showing sari that they had bought for their mom, or some antique piece that had been brought. And Swami used to also buy the sugar candy, cotton candy for a lot of boys after the trip, and keep it ready so that when boys come, that's the first thing that Bhagwan would give, and then Bhagwan would talk about how was the day and what was the shopping. So one of the boys, Swami asked, Swami ne jo paisa diya, tumne spend kiya? So, money that Bhagwan gave, did you spend that? And the boy said, no, Swami, I have that money, but I had money and I spent that. And that's it. Swami was visibly upset. And then Swami, for the next half an hour, was quite annoyed by this fact that Bhagwan gave you the instruction to spend the money that has been given to you. And you didn't do that. And you spent your own money that you had. Are you proud of your money? That moment, which was quite, everyone was quite enthusiastic about talking to Swami and expressing, what they had exhibiting what they had got, suddenly became quite tense, because, in a minute, Swami was not happy the fact that you had not obeyed the instruction explicitly. The instruction was to spend the money that Bhagwan had given.
Wow. What a lovely experience you shared there. And we've still got a time for a few more. So, today's title of Satsang was taking the daily learnings from what Swami has taught us. So if there's one thing that you can share, especially I think for our younger audience, that you've taken from Bhagwan's life, his teachings, what would it be? Something for our younger audience that you can share with us.
Yeah, I think, this is something, which I feel many a times, it is always, you try your best to remind yourself, and then sometimes you forget, sometimes you are definitely aware, is the fact that Swami used to very often say that just be mindful that I am the witness, right? Just be mindful that I am there with you. And try to stick to that thought all the time is one of the most simplest learnings that I have, got from Bhagwan, where I feel that if we are able to do that, if you are able to at any point in time talk to him, because make yourself and make your subconscious mind think that he's there while I'm speaking. He's there while I am in my meeting. He is there. Well, I'm talking to someone. I'm serving someone. I'm even in trouble, or if I'm having an argument. I just need to be mindful of the fact that he's there. And I think then looking at our behavior, or even stepping back when we are not sure, has helped me individually a lot of times. And it is very easy, for us to get involved in a situation and, in that moment and forget that fact. So it is certainly not something which I can, claim that, I do it all the time. But many a times I try to, remind myself that, yes, this is one thing that Bhagwan had said, and this was in Trai, that he just kept saying that, always tell your subconscious mind that Bhagwan is around. Bhagwan is there, because Bhagwan is a witness to everything. Bhagwan does see everything at all points in time. And that's where, when we remind ourselves, we are also having that opportunity to talk to him and tell him that, okay, this is something that I had a difficult time going through, and you helped me through this, and it has helped me to to some extent. I feel it's quite relevant in our lives. For when you say younger audience, all of us, in our journey are young. We want to be closer and dearer to him, and I think it really helps.
Beautifully captured. And we'll just go to our final question, if you don't mind, brother. Is we all have periods in our lives that we may waver spiritually, whether it being in testing times or times of feeling a bit low. What is the sadhana that helps you pull through or possibly maintain that level of surrender? Something that you can share with us on that basis?
I think, again, something which I would not definitely say that I do it 100%, but many a times I've tried, and most of the times it does manage, where in your day, you take that 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that's up to you. And that's up to the individual, how much time they take. But that 5, 10, 15 minutes is just you and Bhagwan. It need not be that, it has to be in the altar room. It has to be in the meditation. It has to be, going to the center, or, it has to be, in a satsang. It just needs to be your time with Bhagwan, where we have that conversation of what went wrong and how you need help. It is because, as a devotee, when Swami was there, whether we were in Prashanti or whether we were, away from him, we always had that session, be it a bhajan session, be it some session which kept us connected. And especially when we were in Prashanti, we every day had Swami's darshan twice a day. So we were quite much, we were in touch with Bhagwan, to say so. And I think that is something which, obviously, because of him not being physically there, is now a different sort of challenge that we have to get accustomed to, and we have accustomed to for the last 9 years. But as our lives move forward, to have that, those 5-10 minutes is nothing but Swami time, or me time with Swami. And then that conversation really helps, because he is within us, right? So the answers are certainly going to be there. It is how we intensely engage in that journey with him. Sometimes it can help, sometimes it may not help. Sometimes you may not get the answers because we are so much influenced by the situation or by the event that has just happened that we will not get the answer. And that is where we've got to. So with Swami, it used to be like, we never had a situation where 6 months out of the year he will just come and talk to you all the time. You always, the cycle that I mentioned will always be there. So it is up to us how we hold on. But I think it really helps if we are able to have that conversation with him.
So a beautiful reminder that taking, as brother said, we all live and lead busy lives, regardless of the situation like we are living in at the moment. But it's taking that time out to reflect and listen and connect with that Swami who's within us all. So with that, we apologize to the audience for the slight technical delay, interruption you may have experienced. But just to close this satsang, which I'm sure none of us want to, what a beautiful journey we've all had the pleasure being this evening. Reflect. And it is with Bhagwan's grace that we've been able to have this satsang today. And I'm grateful for our brother Divij for taking time out and joining us. So many lovely experiences you shared with us, such as Bhagwan taught us by being the living example, and the fact that we must accept the journey that Bhagwan has in store for us. Simple, beautiful reminders for us all. It was lovely to hear firsthand the many stories you mentioned about the boy being told about his future wife being in the bhajan hall, another boy being told about his mother-in-law being present. Another was the incident of Bhagwan telling the cook to chant the name of the Lord, especially while he was cooking. Bhagwan, such a big personality, an avatar who came in human form, gave us such simple examples on how to lead our lives. So we must do our best to uncomplicate things and keep our lives simple too. So I'm sure we've all had something we can take away from this session today, not just to reflect on, as brother said, but something we can all imbibe in our daily lives. Bhagwan has lovingly said, I do not want your praise, I want your transformation. We do not need different kinds of information, we need transformation. So that in a nutshell is the aim of the organization, the tool to transform the heart. So as we reflect upon these divine words from the divine himself, I thank you all for tuning into tonight's session. Last but not least, I thank the dedicated technical team who work silently behind the scenes, who make the weekly online bhajans and satsangs possible and keep us all connected. We will now offer our closing prayers and Aarti to Bhagwan. Stay blessed. Jai Sathsang to you all.
Shri Narayana tu Purushottama Guru tu Siddha Buddha tu Skanda Vinayaka Savita Pavaka tu Savita Pavaka tu Brahmamasa tu Yavashakti tu Piता प्रभु तू रुद्र विष्णु तू राम कृष्ण तू रहीम ताओ तू रहीम ताओ तू वासुदेव गो विश्वरूप तू चिदानंद हरि तू अद्वितीय तो अकाल निर्भय आत्मलिंग शिव तू आत्मलिंग शिव तू आत्मलिंग शिव तू ओम जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक पति महेश्वरा ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रय आश्रितकल्पलतिका आश्रितकल्पलतिका आपद्बान्धवा ॐ जय जगदीश हरे मातपिता गुरुदेवं वरियन्तयुमीवे स्वामी वरियन्तयुमीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्र शयना ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप जय श्री साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अनुक मंगल आरती अनुक मंगल गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा शांति 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 समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति 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 जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय
तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ 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 साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि